Hey, good morning, Alan. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Nick, and uh, great to be here.
Please introduce yourself to everybody, your full
Okay,
name.
my name's Alan Parrot. I was a falconer for Arab political leaders for 20 years, and then I spent another 10 years in former Soviet territories doing conservation work and catching falcon smugglers.
Excellent. So, we crossed paths about a year ago, or no, about 8 months ago, and I have always been searching for the reasons as to and why they wanted everyone to die in Benghazi. And boy, do you have some really good information that explains everything. And we appreciate that you're taking the time to share it with us, everyone. So,
Thank you. Well, I have to say that our military are so well trained, their work is compartmentalized, and the only people that understand the full story are the people at the top. Uh, and they have made some very bad decisions for this country and for uh, the former Navy SEAL Ty Woods and his brethren who perished unnecessarily uh, at the hands of Hillary Clinton. And in the large picture, this involves Joe Biden and John Brennan.
could you explain the context of how did this all start?
Well, the gestation, the beginning was in the 70s during the Church Commission when an alternate CIA was created called the Safari Club. And the Safari Club was financed by overseas allies. It was outsourced to foreign banks. I have two banks and bank accounts that were used by the Safari Club and the individuals with checks paid out by them. Osama bin Laden was one of the recipients of funding from this alternate CIA that was subverting the oversight control of the successor to the Church Commission, and that is the Senate Intelligence Committee. 1 week before bin Laden was killed, I was called down to the Senate Intelligence Committee to give statements and evidence. And I have quite a few tape recordings and of senior members who were aware of bin Laden's house arrest in Iran for 10 years following Tora Bora. This was arranged by John Brennan. This is why Gary Berntsen was not allowed to kill Osama bin Laden in Tora Bora when he was only a few hundred yards away, because the plans had been made and set in stone by John Brennan to extradite bin Laden from Tora Bora to Iran, where he remained under house arrest for 10 years with more than 100 Al-Qaeda leaders and their families.
So what you're saying is that there was no need for us to invade Afghanistan under the pretext of getting Al-Qaeda if the US government knew and was actually protecting his life in Iran. Is that correct?
Well, I have to say it was rogue elements of the US government controlled by John Brennan, Richard Clarke, Vice President Biden, quite a few people. There's a long list of people. They started with good intentions. The Safari Club was begun to fight the expansion of the USSR, but it turned into a very distorted operation over the years. And Osama bin Laden was the figurehead manifestation of this alternate CIA. And so they had to protect him in their bad judgment. And you see, one lie leads to another. Our parents always taught us this. And so when my team, we planned a program to go in and get bin Laden in Iran. we were going to catch him when he was falconry hunting, because I spent 20 years living with Arab political leaders, training their falcons and going out in these camps, hunting with them. And then I noticed there were terrorists coming into these camps, and the Royal Falconry camps are Al-Qaeda's boardroom. This is where these bad guys come. There are no passport or border controls. And so we were going to go in and get bin Laden, but unfortunately, within minutes of ascending to the office of the CIA director, Leon Panetta's first act in office was to cancel the Rigor program, RIGOR, a covert CIA program to catch and kill Osama bin Laden in Iran. This was 6 months after Barack Obama was sworn in as president, and Leon Panetta threw a tantrum and canceled Rigor. This was reported by Goldman and Apuzzo, and slightly mischaracterized in the press as targeting al-Qaeda leaders all over the world, but it was focused only on Iran and bin Laden. And so when we were first ignored and then obstructed and then threatened by 8 CIA officials and warned off going into Iran to get bin Laden, we had passports, visas, everything was ready. The Revolutionary Guards were going to be our bodyguards while we were out doing bona fide scientific research as a cover for catching bin Laden alive for delivery to a tri-state area. When we were shut down by Leon Panetta and others, I began negotiating directly with Iran 6 scenario analyses for the transfer of bin Laden alive and well to coalition forces, and to have him put in a neutral zone. And Iran is on tape agreeing to this. It was all done. It took 3 years to develop this. I had meetings in the Iranian mission at the United Nations. Ambassador Mohammed Kazai organized everything. Bakhsarai was the handler. There were several handlers. Everything was ready. And then I went to Governor Bill Richardson, New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, on December 2nd and 3rd of 2010. He agreed to be the U.S. envoy to receive bin Laden for a transfer to coalition custody. And it turned out that bin Laden had already been moved to Abbottabad, Pakistan in August of 2010. And so—
Why was he transferred there?
He was transferred there because in the 6 scenario analyses that I discussed with Iran, by harboring Osama bin Laden and 100 al-Qaeda leaders, this represents an act of war against the United States. Their nuclear facilities could be bombed and their economy obliterated. So the time moves backwards instead of forwards. And the Iranians didn't want to risk exposing their complicity with John Brennan and others to harbor. You see, John Brennan and Clinton and Biden outsourced the imprisonment of al-Qaeda leaders to Iran. We think of outsourcing as being a commercial activity. They outsourced our military responsibilities to an untrustworthy adversary, Iran. And they did that to save Iran from retaliation for harboring terrorists. And so Iran had no choice in their estimation but to accept the offer of Clinton in lieu of my offer, which was transferred to a neutral zone, because that would have endangered their economy and their nuclear program. So
Clinton, forgive me, I want to ask you about this. So Clinton actually knew about this, right? She knew that they were willing to just hand him over to us.
Tapes, registered letters, everything to Clinton.
So she knew that they were ready, Iran was ready to give us bin Laden with no real struggle. And
absolutely.
So she decided to have him moved to Pakistan for a trophy kill.
They moved him to Abbottabad in August of 2010. And that's our first overhead viewings of bin Laden walking in the garden. Everybody said he was crippled, but he walked down 3 flights of stairs to walk in a garden to advertise his presence, okay? It was an advertisement. Then the gas line was put on the third floor of the Abbottabad complex in August because his wives had to stay sequestered away from the other men. They had to cook in private without the purdah veil. And other things. One of bin Laden's sons said his father was strangely resigned to dying in Abbottabad. So he was held there in a gilded cage, awaiting his trophy kill. He was moved from Mashhad, Iran, into Abbottabad airport, and then moved to this prison complex, the Abbottabad compound. It was not there to protect him. It was there to keep him there, awaiting his appointment with destiny. But the Iranians turned it into a fateful result because they pulled bin Laden out at the last minute, at the 11th hour, after an Iranian agent, a double agent, a Pakistan ISI officer who worked for Iran covertly, provided the DNA evidence to the CIA station chief. Finally, they were convinced it was bin Laden in Abbottabad, and they sent in SEAL Team 6. And Musharraf said he didn't know about the SEAL Team 6 coming in, but they had to let down the radar long enough for the helicopters to come in. And they only told Obama about the SEAL Team 6 kill mission after the radar was put back up and SEAL Team 6 could not go back into Afghanistan. It was then a one-way trip that could not be canceled. You see, we have a witness who witnessed Hillary and Panetta threatening Obama that if he didn't greenlight the bin Laden kill mission, they would expose him in the press and he would never survive politically. And he actually was reluctant to authorize the kill mission. That's why they pulled him off the golf course only after the mission could not be canceled. And so the agent provocateurs, the engineers of all of this were John Brennan, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. And when they went in there, trusting the Iranians had bin Laden there waiting for them, SEAL Team 6, your son.
He was retired at that time. Actually.
Yes, but the SEAL Team 6, they killed Osama bin Laden's double.
How do we know that?
One of the wives went running towards them before he shot him and said, "Don't shoot, he's a double." I don't know the language she used. And then if you read Cy Hirsch's book, he explains that they threw the body parts over the Hindu Kush mountains. They didn't even save them like they saved the sons of Saddam Hussein in a refrigerated tent, well preserved and with makeup, just to prove that the wicked witch was dead. They saved the sons of Saddam Hussein, but they did not save the corpse of Osama bin Laden because it was his double, and it could not handle the scrutiny of DNA testing on the ship.
Okay, so the SEAL team, they knew that it was thrown out of the helicopter.
They learned that it was not bin Laden, and so they threw the body parts over the Hindu Kush mountains. And John Brennan said that the people on the ship were told to keep quiet about the burial at sea, but they all say that they never were told to keep quiet because there was no burial at sea. John Brennan took the lead and made the fake media announcements. He lied to the press when he explained this Muslim burial at sea. It's actually haram. It's forbidden to bury a Muslim at sea unless the body's going to endanger the lives of the crew with disease risk. You know, you can't, because you see in the ocean, the feet, it'll rotate around and the feet will face Mecca. It's haram. You must bury on land with the face facing Mecca. So Brennan, who's a Muslim, you'd think he'd know not to lie about something so obvious. He said it was a Muslim burial at sea. Nonsense. And so this big lie that you see, Biden, Hillary, and Clinton worked this agreement with Iran. They trusted Iran to move bin Laden to Pakistan. He did. He was there. But then they trusted Iran to keep him there. They moved him out back to Iran. And then the communication from Iran to Obama was, hey, we got your neck in a noose. Give us all this money, $152 billion, $2 billion on airplane pallet was paid out for the secrets I wish to reveal now and to the president under the terms of misprision and treason. That is to say, this is a secret. These are secrets worth $152 billion paid by President Obama, and Vice President Biden paid with the blood of SEAL Team 6 when he had them killed.
So it's blackmail and extortion then.
Blackmail and extortion.
Now,
Iran commandeered.
You have the documents to prove
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Now,
Iran. Yes, sir.
well, I was going to ask you, if you have those documents, are you willing to personally deliver those to President Trump if he were to provide the transportation and the guarantee of safety for you to do that?
Well, I'm not concerned about safety. There's always an invisible hand that protects us, and we're on the winning team. America's on the winning team.
Not one sparrow falls to the ground outside of God's will.
Yes. It would be my pleasure and my honor to bring this material to President Trump. There's a massive amount, terabytes, documents, video, audio. It needs to go to the president.
I will do everything that I can to get this video in his hands.
It's my only wish.
Alan, I've got a question for you. So that means that SEAL Team 6 was shot down on purpose after the trophy kill to ensure that no dead man can tell no tales.
You were correct. So that President Obama paid bribery of $152 million. Vice President Biden paid with the blood of SEAL Team 6. He spent their blood like currency.
Well, I've got to share something with you. Actually, Charles does. Charles, tell him about the Army Ranger that you talked to that was in the city where they were shot down.
Okay. We lived in Hawaii, and for about a month afterwards, I was in shock. And my wife and I, we went walking on the beach. And in the back of my vehicle, I have a bumper sticker about Ty. And this gentleman came up to me, and he was an Army Ranger that had been injured, and he was recuperating in Hawaii. And he said, "How do you know Chief Petty Officer Woods?" And I says, "Well, I'm his dad." And he says, "Well, I worked with your son." And we became very close. It was part of my healing process, actually, getting to know him. He started coming to our church. His girlfriend started surfing with my daughters, and they ended up getting married. And one of the things that he told me, he says, "I was on the Ranger team that was in that village where SEAL Team 6 was killed." The story was by the Biden-Obama administration that there was this team that was under attack in this village. We're going to die if you don't get someone here really quick. And so they loaded SEAL Team 6 on this slow, vintage Huey helicopter the size of a school bus and slowly got them to the village. Now, they did not request help. They'd been in that village numerous times before. In fact, if someone came, it would actually endanger them. The story was not true. And then usually when a helicopter comes in, it goes zoom right down to the ground, opens up, all the troops go out in seconds, and then boom, the helicopter goes straight up. Well, this was a sitting target, okay, the size of a school bus. It hovered in the air over that village, just waiting to be shot down. And the people hot roped. I'd never heard the word hot rope before. That means they each individually lowers down while it was a sitting target. And then apparently it was shot down by one of those weapons that Hillary Clinton illegally sent to Benghazi to give to a terrorist organization the U.S. government used to get rid of our ally who was fighting terrorism. That's Gaddafi.
One of the
and then that weapon ended up over in Afghanistan.
They were Stinger missiles. Thousands upon thousands of them went missing. And Mark Turry was told that he had a small arms covert weapons program going. So that way none of that was ever given to someone, because they could shoot down jetliners just flying by if they wanted to. A child could do it, and a 12-year-old could do it. So these Stinger missiles went through Benghazi and then were given to the people who shot down SEAL Team 6. That was a setup. They were covering their tracks there. And then when they found the serial number on one of the missiles, it is traced back to the CIA from Qatar, from that weapons cache there of Stinger missiles. That's why they had to then cover their tracks after people found out that the missiles were from Qatar, and then they could trace back where they came from Hillary through Benghazi. That's why Stevens was back there, to recover those missiles and cover up the evidence. Well, that's at least what he was told. I assume that part of the plan for her was to eliminate everyone there at the Benghazi compound as well.
It's just so wicked. It's hard. It's just so unimaginably evil what these people do.
Dead men don't talk.
Well,
Alan,
we'll talk. We will talk.
You have some good news coming up here in the next week and a half.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be released, audio tapes, documents.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about it and seeing everybody connect the dots, because it's pretty plain to see the people involved, and it's all connected to another crime spree. And that's another story, though.
Well, let's just remember that heavy price has been paid for the secrets we are uncovering. And there are millions of people who want to see the truth. And we're going to deliver.
Well, America is a democracy, and for a democracy to work, the people that vote need to know what the truth is. And that is why we have 3 weeks for the people of the United States to get to know the truth. I hope that the media covers this, including the fake media, because the truth has to come out for our democracy to work properly, so people can vote intelligently.
Totally agree. I agree.
All right, Alan, we appreciate your time today. I'm sure this is just the beginning, and we look forward to hearing and seeing what you're going to show to everyone in the future.
It's the beginning, but it's also the beginning of the end for the bad guys.
Woo-hoo.
Anyway,
it comes out.
Speak to you soon. Yes, sir.
Have a good day, Alan.
Pleasure to meet you. Yes.
Lord bless. Bye-bye.
Back to the rhetoric from President Trump, that strong language. He had another statement on Maria Bartiromo this morning, and this is what you guys need to hear before we get into the meat and potatoes.
The declassification of these documents, but what does that do if we don't have John Durham and Bill Barr following up? Can you demand that they release this? People are still sitting on documents.
Yeah, I hope they're going to. And I will say this, documents are being released at a level now that nobody's ever seen before. Things that nobody thought were going to get released have been released. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it all the time. You're seeing what's going on. We caught them cold. We have them cold. And now they have to do something about it. But other documents are going to be released, Maria, which are breathtaking. Wait till you see what's coming out.
Oh, really?
Breathtaking.
Is it about Hillary Clinton, or is it about the FBI that's coming out?
It's about everything. It's about everything. Hillary Clinton is crooked Hillary. I don't call her crooked Hillary for nothing. And, just the one thing, I keep going back to it. She got a subpoena from the United States Congress, right? She got a subpoena. How do you get rid of your emails after you get a subpoena? She got text messages, emails, etc. How do you do that? It's criminal. What she did is criminal.
Well,
you
told me for my book, when we did the interview for my book, that there are people in government that are just protected. I guess she's protected.
Well, they're trying like hell, but we got them. We have found things that nobody can believe. Nobody can believe what we found. And I'll tell you what, the level at which we found them, people are shocked, they're stunned, and let's see what happens. But Hillary Clinton was totally crooked. And so were plenty of other people.
I've got to ask you this. Are you...
All right, so obviously he's talking about the Spygate situation, but he said everything. It has a lot more farther-reaching implications. And today, something dropped that I have been sitting on for a while, you guys. I have been waiting to talk to you about it. I haven't been able to. I was under embargo by the source that had given me this information. And I think that, Methods, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you agree with me. When he said that something breathtaking was about to come out, I truly believe that he was talking about this as a part of it. So there's a gentleman I know named Alan Parrot, spelled like Parrot. Alan was a falconer to the rich and famous of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, like the princes and the kings. Falconer, it's exactly what it sounds like. I think that there was a comedy sketch about a guy who was a falconer, but he bred, raised, and trained falcons in the Middle East. This is what these guys do with their money. They spend millions of dollars on prized falcons. They use them for hunting, and they hang out in the desert, and I think they drink tea in a tent or something like that. So while Alan was living in the Middle East for 20 plus years, he was in Saudi Arabia, and while he was there, he met none other than Osama bin Laden. Okay, this is obviously prior to 2010. He met Osama bin Laden on multiple occasions. Now, he found out at the time that Osama had been hiding out in Iran with the full and complete knowledge and assistance of the United States government. So it began after September in 2001 with the George W. Bush administration, and it continued on into the Obama administration. The Obama administration kind of inherited it from the Bush administration. So basically what this means, if you look at the full implication, the war on terror was fake. The USA Patriot Act was unnecessary. The war in Iraq was completely unnecessary. The war in Afghanistan was completely unnecessary. We sent our men and women to die in the Middle East for nothing because there was no hunt for Osama bin Laden. They had a bead on him the whole time. So at a certain point, Allen told the government of Iran that harboring Osama bin Laden was an act of war against the United States. At which time they entered into talks with the United States to attempt to, hand him over or move him out or something. There was a Clowns in America task force that was tasked with doing a rendition on OBL. And Allen was a part of it on a number of occasions. They could have gotten him on any number of multiple occasions, but Leon Panetta specifically stopped it from happening and disbanded the group. However, at one point in 2010, Hillary Clinton arranged for the transfer of Osama bin Laden from Iran to Pakistan. Now, this was done through a series of intermediaries, the least of which was not Joe Biden's personal attorney, as well as at least one sitting congressman. There are audio tapes, there are videotapes, there are terabytes of information. I personally have heard the audio tapes of Joe Biden's lawyer discussing going on secret missions, specifically at the behest of Joe Biden, to go to meet with the Iranians and to schedule the transfer of Osama into Pakistan. Now, when this finally happened, they transferred him into Pakistan, and he was living there in that compound. That's when we got footage of him walking in his garden, from above, from a satellite. And Hillary Clinton and the people in the State Department, they set up to send SEAL Team 6 in there and take him out. Well, just before the mission to bring SEAL Team 6 in, the Iranians got cold feet, and they pulled Osama out, and they left his double there in the compound. So when SEAL Team 6 came in, and they got him, it wasn't Osama bin Laden. Many people have always thought that that was probably the case. So you remember that crazy story from John Brennan, and keep in mind, John Brennan is mixed up in this as well, because obviously he was the director under Obama. But Brennan made up that story about the burial at sea because they didn't have the body. Because when they realized it wasn't the real Osama, they dumped his body over the Hindu Kush Mountains, and then they flew back home. And then because they knew that it wasn't real and that it was all a lie, Joe Biden named them publicly, and then they had to take out SEAL Team 6 so that the information wouldn't get out. Everybody knew immediately when SEAL Team 6 was murdered right after this operation to take out Osama that there was nothing good about it. Nothing was right about what happened. Those guys, some of the bravest guys in uniform, they were murdered by their own government to stop this information from getting out. After that happened, Iran reached out to the Obama administration, and they said, guess what? We've got Osama back, and if you want us to keep it quiet, you're going to have to pay us. So that's how the Iran deal came about. They paid $154 billion, total, $2 billion in pallets of cash sent over.
The declassification.
Sorry about that. $2 billion sent over on pallets of cash. That was a ransom to keep Iran quiet about the fact that Osama bin Laden wasn't killed in that raid. It's an incredible story, absolutely indefensible. And the fact is that multiple administrations oversaw this operation to keep him hidden and to continue using this supposed, manhunt and the war on terror, not only against us, the citizens of this country, but also against the peoples of other countries throughout the world. They used it as a power grab, and they set up this trophy kill for Obama right before the 2012 election so that he could get reelected. And there is more. There is more information coming out. Alan just recently did a 23-minute interview that was made public with my friend Nick No and with the father of one of the members of SEAL Team 6 who was killed. And Alan is going to be here on the show in the next 2 weeks. And he's going to talk to us about everything that he has seen and heard. But I saw people on Twitter saying, I'm going to wait for evidence. I've seen the evidence, you guys. I have heard the tapes. The president knows about this. Okay? So when President Trump said that the information is going to be breathtaking, I honestly think that he was talking about this. Now, this is why I met Jim Jordan last week, to try to get him the information ahead of time so that he could potentially do something about it. I would be looking to see if there's going to be some hearings held in Congress specifically in regards to this. But when it gets down to it, this is bigger than just hearings in Congress. This is major criminal activity. Remember, our favorite Anon said, Spygate, that's 1%. Just 1% of what they did. How many lives throughout this entire world are no longer here because of what they did, because of the war on terror, because they told us that we needed to avenge, the people that we lost in September. It's horrific when you get down to it. So many people are dead, and their blood is on the hands of former presidents, former vice presidents, people from both administrations. And, the sad thing is, guys, this is probably not the, I know it's not the only corrupt thing that's happened. I mean, this spreads back. And President Trump is here to fight against it and to do something to stop this level of corruption.
Well, I'm going to agree with the audience. I've known about some of this for a little while, but I'm going to agree with them with the wow and oh my God and all that stuff, because it just to wrap your head around it. And of course, if true, which we'll see the evidence and then, everybody can decide for themselves. you know, that kind of puts a lot of pieces together that a lot of us have been questioning over the last several years on how that all played out. It didn't make sense to a lot of us. It was called out, but we were silenced, or people just called us crazy. We're the conspiracy theorists, and we just, you know, they leave it alone. But that sound like that justifies a lot of why focus on the Iran deal that the president's made about how that was such a bad deal. They need to look into what was going on there. That would make a lot of sense to hand over the pallets of money. If you think about it, we're like, okay, well, they're just giving away money to where they can then split it up and just take it. But if it had to do with an actual like pay up, so you shut up type situation, and then have this stuff come out now, I don't like our favorite Anon said, indefensible. Like they cannot defend themselves if you present all this evidence. And I heard it's over a terabyte of information. Terabytes of information. For anybody who understands that, that's a lot of information. Like to have that go to the public forum and let us all dissect it. Man, there's no way to come back from it at all. Now, I know you mentioned the 23-minute video. I know a lot of people just saw the 2-minute clip that was put on Twitter. I've got the link right here. I'm going to rapid fire it in the chat for you guys so y'all can watch this later, because the guy breaks it down. But I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and say, like, the way he presented it was like he wanted to get this information to the right people.
Yes.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's probably with the right people already, because why would they allow him to go to AmpFest and talk about this stuff? You would want to have this stuff already in the right hands, right?
Yes, and it has been. It at the time that I talked to Jim Jordan, the president already had it. It's there. Okay. Now I saw people saying, you know, big if true, we got to wait for evidence. You guys, when have I ever come to you and told you that I have seen direct evidence of an event or a situation and then brought it to you and it turned out to be false? I wouldn't be saying this on the air if I hadn't actually firsthand witnessed this evidence that had been conclusively verified to show that this is a true thing that happened. I wouldn't steer you guys wrong. I wouldn't want to risk my reputation to say this. So, you know, take it as it is. If you want to wait for the evidence to come out, you don't have long to wait. It's going to be released by a major media organization. And when it does, there's going to be no way for Joe Biden or any of these other people to defend themselves against the findings of it. And the American people are going to want the justice that we deserve. This is real. This is the biggest thing that I think I've ever revealed on this show. And, you know, I feel like we've had some good ones here. We've had some very, very good stuff come out on this show, and I cannot wait for Alan to be here to talk to us about it. Now, what I do want to do, we've got 10 minutes before Dave comes in. So I do just want to play this 2-minute clip right here from the interview with Alan and Ty Wood's father and my friend Nick No, the Benghazi whistleblower. Nick No is the one who introduced me to Alan and who brought this story to me. And like I said, I've known about it for a while. I couldn't talk about it until it was made public this weekend at AmpFest. So let's go ahead and listen to this, and you guys can see Alan and see Ty Wood's father and Nick.
I think you'd know not to lie about something so obvious. He said it was a Muslim burial at sea. Nonsense. And so this big lie that you see, Biden, Hillary, and Clinton worked this agreement with Iran. They trusted Iran to move bin Laden to Pakistan. He did. He was there. But then they trusted Iran to keep him there. They moved him out back to Iran. And then the communication from Iran to Obama was, hey, we got your neck in a noose. Give us all this money. $152 billion, $2 billion on an airplane pallet was paid out for the secrets I wish to reveal now and to the president under the terms of misprision of treason.
Under the terms misprision of treason. That's exactly what it is. Knowing that these crimes were committed and not bringing them to light implicates you in a crime all on its own. So this is coming out, guys. I guarantee you this is the real deal, and I think that this is the October surprise to end all October surprises. And I'm very, very excited to be able to bring you this information, guys. So thank you for being here. You know, we've got almost 12,000 people here, and Dave's not even on the air yet. So if you guys wouldn't mind, 4,300, almost 4,400 likes, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button and making sure that you share this on your favorite social media platform. Now... Okay, Hog is asking me to slow the chat even more, so I'll go ahead and do that. Now, I do have another little bit of information that I was given, and I can't divulge my source, but due to the amount of documents that are being revealed by the president and John Ratcliffe, we may see the resignation of Gina Haspel in the near future. There is a possibility that she might just say, you know, hey, I don't want to be a part of this. Clearly, we already know that it looks like she doesn't want the information to come out. She doesn't want to be responsible for the black eye that's going to be on the Clowns in America. But that's just something I want you guys to keep an eye on. And, of course, I haven't seen, like, her walking papers or anything like that. But just something I'm hearing through the grapevine.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about that before, about how, like, if all this information is going to be coming out, and Ray and Haspel are actually stonewalling and not just waiting until the right moment, and that's just all theater, then resigning right before things go down makes the most sense. But also we have discussed about how we would expect, you know, October surprises to end all October surprises to go down. And this definitely fits that category.
It does. As
far as this information. And I just wonder what else. I mean, I think we can take it if they were to just have things of this nature just drop left and right and go ahead and make it to where, I mean, the election is kind of an afterthought at that point because they're all dealing with it. Because how much of the media knew about that? How much of the media knew this information and kept it quiet?
Right.
That, you know, how many of them are caught on record saying those kind of things? Now we can go back and take them apart for everything that they presented, saying our sources said this, they took down Osama. You know, we could take all this apart. And yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. And from what I saw from Nate Kane, he's been talking about this stuff as well. And he said that this, and so I'm just quoting his Twitter page, that this information is supposed to be coming out this week. So, you know, just letting you know what I'm seeing going on here.
Definitely. And also, Nick is going to be on the show with Alan. So they'll both be here. And I'm just, obviously, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know if they're listening right now, but it's going to be sweet. Thanks for sticking around. First of all today, after the revelations were made public yesterday at AmpFest by my friend whistleblower Nick No and whistleblower Alan Howard Parrot, and then I published those claims here on my channel, a few people cried foul on Twitter, stating that the information had been broken earlier, specifically by True Pundit's Mike Moore in his 2018 book, Pain, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas. Now, in fact, I had found that the information had been broken earlier, although in a slightly different form. But the claims that were new to this drop of information involve the evidence accompanying that original story, which has, of course, since been updated to include world events that have happened since it was originally broken. Now, what's special here is that we don't have an anonymous source. We don't have a mysterious government insider with supposed knowledge. What we have is Alan Parrot, who is this time revealing terabytes of evidence direct to the president and other lawmakers in Washington in the form of emails, photographs, video, and most importantly, audio evidence of people closely associated with the former administration, revealing the plot in detail that we described yesterday. Now, Alan himself was the subject of a 2010 documentary entitled Feathered Cocaine. It dealt with his time in the world of falconry amongst the rich and powerful leaders of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and alongside the Shah of Iran, and face-to-face with OBL himself. Now, the tale of OBL's sanctuary inside Iran has been reported on since at least 2010, as far as I can figure, and that was after the documentary was released. Although, no doubt, due to the administration at the time, the news was quickly brushed aside and easily forgotten. Here is an article from Fox News on May 3rd of 2010. It is detailing the information in Alan's documentary and the claims within. And then here's another article from Huffington Post on December 5th of 2013. And finally, another article from True Pundit on October 16th of 2018. Now, the first two articles detail Allen's experience and information, which is what I covered yesterday, albeit with some additional info to fill in the blanks on events that have taken place since feathered cocaine was released. Also previewing that new, never-before-seen evidence that is about to drop imminently. I've heard it, I can vouch for its legitimacy, it's real, and it's just around the corner. Now, the True Pundit article ties in the idea of the Iran deal and the trophy kill in Pakistan, but it makes no specific mention of Allen or his evidence, so I don't know if Allen figures into that story in that article. But nevertheless, when you put all three articles together, it paints a clearer picture of just how easy it is for the mainstream media and the swamp to bury the most important story of the century. Now, due to the fact that the MSM have lost control of this narrative, we find ourselves in a different world in so many ways. A world where we now have the power to bring this important story to the forefront, where it's not so easy for the 4 a.m. talking points to eclipse this criminal act perpetrated by more than one administration and by many of the same people who are involved in the Spygate scandal. Congratulations to all true journalists who have taken the time to report on this singularly monumental story. But just because it's been reported before doesn't invalidate the importance of reporting it again to a new audience so that we can reveal even more information and open the eyes of all who didn't get a chance to see it the first time around. Working together, we have a collective potential to impact the world for a far greater good, far more than if we go it alone. Remember, we are the news now. Not you, not me. It's us. Together, united. All right, next, I want to go through a thread from my friend on Twitter, Heshmat Alavi. He's put together some excellent examples showing how the Obama administration was in bed with Iran from the very beginning. So that's from 2009, basically as soon as they came into office. This goes far beyond this notorious 2015 nuclear deal that provided Iran access to $150 billion in credit and $1.8 billion in unmarked cash. And he links to that short excerpt from the interview that my friend Nick No did with my friend Alan Perot and with Ty Woods' father standing right there on the side. Ty Woods being one of the people from SEAL Team 6 that was taken out after the operation in Pakistan. Now, he notes that the information coming from Alan, the evidence in video form, audio form, emails, pictures, all of it, it's going to be out soon. Now, but he takes us here to the summer of 2012 when U.S. intel and security officers in Libya warned their chain of command. Now, one of those people was Nick No himself, and another person was William Cotel, also has been a guest here on my show. Now, the administration knew, they chose to do nothing at all. Now, here's an article from the New York Post, and it asks us, why won't the U.S. government admit that Iran funded that attack in Benghazi? And a quote from the article, the clowns in America, the NSA, and Joint Special Forces Operation Command operatives in Benghazi and in Tripoli were actively monitoring Iranian operations in Benghazi in the months leading up to the attack. He continues, Green Beret Colonel Andy Wood sent a cable to his commanding officer in June 2012 that the Iran-backed militia Ansar al-Sharia had received their funding from Iran and were sending their wives and children to Benghazi. And then there is another New York Post article, the shadowy Iranian spy chief who helped plan Benghazi. And I'm sure you guys recognize him right there. He is the one that we recently took out, Soleimani. Continuing on throughout the Obama administration, officials with knowledge of Iran's presence in Benghazi, including security contractors who defended the Clowns in America annex in a 13-hour battle, memorialized in the piece of propaganda known as 13 Hours, were repeatedly threatened with prosecution if they revealed what they knew. And then we have an article from the Washington Times, the Iranian connection to the Benghazi attacks. Among them was then Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, General Michael Flynn. General Flynn placed the regime of Iran on notice in the early days of the Trump presidency. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Iran continues to threaten U.S. friends and allies in the region. The Obama administration failed to respond adequately to Tehran's malign actions, including weapons transfers, support for terrorism, and other violations of international norms. The Trump administration condemns such actions by Iran that undermine security, prosperity, and stability throughout and beyond the Middle East, and which places American lives at risk. President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice.
All right, so now place that next to the information we learned yesterday. Obviously, one of the first points of business when President Trump was bringing his new administration in, the former outgoing administration knew that they had to get rid of Michael Flynn. He was tough on Iran from the very beginning, and they knew that that's where he was going. We've often heard that Flynn knew where the bodies were buried. Well, what bigger body could there be than this plot to harbor and safeguard the world's foremost #1 wanted terrorist responsible for an attack on America that killed thousands of people? Clearly, there was an effort on behalf of the former administration to keep his location secret and to keep secret the fact that he had been harbored with our knowledge. So, moving on. This is the one reason why I still believe Iran's regime has specific interests in the ongoing ambush that is targeting General Flynn. And then we have a Medium article, Iran's interest in the ambush targeting General Flynn. Documents which include a wire transfer for 1.9 million euros from a known Quds Force money laundering operation in Malaysia clearly show how Iran used the international financial system to funnel money to its Benghazi operations. Let's take a look at these. This is that wire confirmation going to that known Quds Force in Malaysia. Details it right here. A courier arrived in Benghazi carrying the equivalent of $8 million to $10 million in 500 euro notes around 3 weeks before the attack. That is certainly not a coincidence. The money came from Quds Force accounts in Malaysia at the First Islamic Investment Bank and IRGC front, proudly operated by Babak Zanjani, a 41-year-old billionaire who called himself a financial Basaji or militiaman. And the Iranians, Babak Zanjani here on the left, and then Ali Reza Ziba Halat Monafared right here on the right, they helped finance the attack that took place in Benghazi. And then this just details that as well. Obviously, it makes a lot more sense now of why they wanted to keep everything about Benghazi so secret, because it led directly back to exactly the situation with OBL. Now, the person the Iranians put in charge of recruiting, training, and equipping the Ansar al-Sharia jihadi militia was a Lebanese man named Khalil Harb. He was a senior Hezbollah executive well known to Western intelligence agencies. This is his wanted poster right here, as well as the wanted posters for a couple of other bad guys as well. As operational plans for the Benghazi attacks accelerated during the summer of 2012, Iran dispatched IRGC Major General Mehdi Rabbani to Benghazi under cover of an Islamic Red Crescent medical team. How many times have we heard that under the cover of NGOs, people will go and do operations just like this? Not surprising. Iran's media claimed the Red Crescent team was abducted to cover their tracks. That's a pretty good way to do it. First report, August 1st, 2012. Second report, August 29th, 2012. And then the Benghazi attack happens on September 11th, 2012. Now, a U.S. AFRICOM command briefing slide from the summer of 2012 shows money and weapons flowing from Iran into Egypt and Libya, but it had other AFRICOM documents relating to Iran's presence in Benghazi, and they have been consistently denied to journalists and outside groups. Qasem Soleimani, the man that we spoke about at the beginning, was involved in the attack, and it makes a lot of sense thinking about why President Trump wanted to make sure we took him out so badly. It was a response to what happened in Libya in 2012. In Libya, Iran wanted to block U.S. influence, which they saw as a threat. They saw the uprising against Gaddafi and the Arab Spring more generally as an opportunity to accomplish this. Now, the Iranians arrived in Libya, staged a kidnapping with allied militias to create a distraction, leaked reports to operatives that they were transferred back to Iran to cover their tracks from Western intel teams, and went on to prepare for the September attack on the U.S. consulate. The team in operational command in Benghazi were Qasem Soleimani's people, and that's according to former Baghdad Deputy Chief of Station John McGuire. He continues, they were a mature, experienced operational element from Iran. These guys are the first string varsity squad, and that's why they were so successful. The faked kidnapping in Benghazi was a typical Quds Force op. They used a local militia that on the surface detested Shias, just as they used the Taliban in Afghanistan and manipulated al-Qaeda. Iran used recruits from Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen, Turkey, and Egypt to finance, train, and equip the radical group Ansar al-Sharia in Libya, careful to show their hand only to a select few. To those on the ground, the Iranian operatives would look and speak just like Arabs or Turks. And then by mid-August 2012, planning for the attacks on the U.S. diplomatic compound and the Clowns in America intelligence base in Benghazi had been in the works for 2 months. Recall the dates of Iran's state media reports in tweet number 11 of this thread. That was August 1st and then also August 29th, both in 2012. Now, evidence suggests that the Benghazi attacks were acts of state-sponsored terror against America, ordered by Iran's highest authorities, financed by Iran's oil sales, and involving multiple Iranian regime agencies and banking commercial entities in Malaysia, France, and Libya. The big picture? Around 35,000 declassified emails show the Obama-Biden administration not only knew of Iran supporting Assad oppressing the Syrian people, but appeased Iran, Iraqi militias, and Iran's puppet government in Iraq, and collaborated with Soleimani that led to crises across the Middle East. Here is one such email right there from Jacob Sullivan to Benjamin Rhodes. We have seen this on the program before. Don't worry, I am going to leave a link to this thread in the pinned comment below so you guys can see all of these documents and these articles that Heshmat has included. The Obama administration knew also about Iran's role in a plot to assassinate the Saudi ambassador in Washington. I'm sure everybody remembers that. They also knew about Hezbollah directly coordinating its role in Syria with Iran and about Iran's secret nuclear activities in underground sites. Now, here is an email from Hillary Clinton to Sid Blumenthal, and she mentions the Iranian assassination plot against the Saudi Arabian ambassador, as well as the Quds forces and General Soleimani. You can't get much more black and white than this, my friends. And then in another classified document, State Department's counterterrorism czar, Ambassador Daniel Benjamin, said that Hezbollah is coordinating directly in Syria with the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And then continuing on. And then we have another email right here from HRod17. You gotta love it. She asks Anne-Marie Slaughter to print this article, A Real Debate About Iran. And in it includes information about those secret underground nuclear facilities. Now, the Obama administration also knew of Iran's rigged 2009 presidential election and of Hezbollah's role in the Thailand terror attack. They also sought direct diplomacy with Iran in January 2009. Now we know why. And they described engagement with Iran as very interesting in August of 2010. These emails detail all of that. And the Obama administration knew of Iran lobbyists' role in whitewashing the IRGC's crimes. Those people are Vali Nasser, Suzanne Maloney, Gary Sick, and they sought to provide bigger carrots to Iran's regime. As a reminder, an Iranian lobby group called the NIA Council enjoyed unprecedented access to the Obama-Biden White House prior to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. And it says a former Iranian official, pro-Tehran lobbyist, hosted at Obama White House dozens of times. That's from the Washington Free Beacon. Now that we know what was taking place, it makes a lot of sense. They were negotiating for that Iran deal to keep everybody quiet so that they didn't have to worry about the truth getting out. Iran's lobby group, NIAC, enjoyed very strong ties with Obama-Biden administration, mainly through Ben Rhodes. Remember him? He was in shock after President Trump won, probably because he knew he was going to get busted. He was the mastermind behind the infamous echo chamber. Now, the Obama-Biden administration derailed an ambitious law enforcement campaign targeting drug trafficking by the Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah. Also, when it comes to the Iran deal, the Obama administration took lying to new heights. They lied to the American people. How is the Obama-Biden administration remembered? By secretly trying to give Tehran access to the U.S. financial system to convert billions of dollars in assets into euros as part of that Iran nuclear deal. They also promised to grant citizenship to 2,500 Iranians, including family members of government officials, while negotiating that nuclear deal. And they provided $1.8 billion in unmarked cash that has been traced to Iran's backing of Houthi rebels seeking to take power in Yemen. It is now historic fact that the reporters in Washington, D.C. were lied to and fooled by the Obama administration with regard to the Iran nuclear deal, and Ben Rhodes was a major part of that. Now, this is a segment from a former Iranian MP detailing all of the cash that was given to Iran by the Obama-Biden administration. And I'm going to go ahead and remove myself because you're going to need to read the subtitles.
توسط تیم محترم دولت داشت دنبال میشد ما سر قضیه 400 میلیون دلار پرونده بی یک خودمونم مربوط به زمان شاه با آمریکایی‌ها مذاکره کردیم دیگه. ما 400 میلیون دلارمون رو که آمریکایی‌ها نداده بودن رو اومدیم باب مذاکره چی شد؟ جاسوسای آمریکایی شدن، جیسون رضاییان شد. ما 4 تا جاسوس رو آزاد کردیم، 7 نفر از زندان‌های در واقع خدمت شما عرض کنم آمریکا فی‌البداهه آزاد شدن، 7 نفر هم قرار شد سر سال آزاد شدن، 14 نفر هم از بلک لیست در اومدن شدن 28 نفر. 4 به 28. بعد ما گفتیم کمه و واقعا هم کم بود. گفتن چی میخواید؟ گفتیم اون 400,000 در واقع 400 میلیون دلارمون رو شما باید با سود معقول به ما بدید. 1 میلیارد و 700 میلیون دلار ما پول گرفتیم، پول نقد گرفتیم تو 4 تا پارتی اولش 400 میلیون دلار توی در واقع چمدون واسه ما آوردن. ما گفتیم ما اینا باز کمه. گفتن چی دیگه میخواد؟ گفتیم ما بانک سپه و اینترنشنال سپه رو از بلک لیست در بریم. این که دیگه حی حاضر آمریکایی‌ها نزدیک تعطیلی شورای امنیت بود رفتن دستگردون کردن، امضا گرفتن آوردن ما رو چیز کردن. اونی که دائما ترامپ تو کل ما با میزد میگفتش که شما به ایران کولی دادید، سر 1 میلیارد و 700 میلیون دلار بود زمانی که ما تمام تحریما رو موندش فشار می آورد. فشار اینا پول جیرینگی واسه ما آوردن.
So, a history of appeasement with the Obama administration. Now, one of the main arguments I see on Twitter is that the money that was given to the Iranian regime was their money. But only $400 million was their money. It didn't need to be $1.7 billion in cash and then also allowing their banks into the financial system, especially when we know what they were using their money to finance across the globe and their specific interest in these events that have taken place against Americans and that have sacrificed American lives. Now, finally, my friend Nick No gave another little interview while he was down at the AMP Fest. We're going to go ahead and listen to this. I want you guys to hear this because it tees up everything else that we're about to get in the way of evidence.
Fucking a long time. He was in the Middle East for over 20 years. He I don't want to say too much about it, but he's got recordings of a lot of people. So something that everybody wants to have is the evidence. Ooh, I want to hear and see the evidence. Guess what? We have it. Mm-hmm. We have irrefutable evidence. We have audio recordings of people, government officials talking about it to Allen. And in there, you're going to find out some pretty shocking things. And that's just the start of it. That's just a couple of audio recordings and a document. You're going to find out that 3 former CIA directors were all implicated by allowing this to continue to keep bin Laden alive in Iran. They moved him from Iran over to Pakistan for the trophy kill. Instead of just giving him to us, Iran was like, all right, here, take him. They were going to give him to us. And instead, Hillary and Biden and them cooked up this plan to have him transferred to Pakistan for a trophy kill. They want to do a trophy kill.
Right before his reelection.
Yeah, they wanted to do it right before his reelection. And then, so, yeah, you know, fast forward a little bit, he is reelected. One thing that people don't know, though, is that the payments to Iran were related to that. I've heard 2 things. I've heard that bin Laden, that wasn't him as his body double. I mean, I guess we'll never know if they buried it at sea, that story, right? But either way, even if they did kill him or didn't kill him, the payments occurred because of that transaction. And of course, you know, the pallets of cash are kickbacks, right? So
the transaction of SEAL Team 6 is...
Oh, I'm talking about. So afterward, after the this all happens, SEAL Team 6 gets shot down. It was only a really short time after that, and that was highly suspect even to us. When we were briefed on it and everything, none of it made any sense. Mm-hmm. You know, nobody knows where they are at any time. Practically a handful of people do, and for them to be targeted so easily. Like sitting ducks, you know, that was...
The more I learn about this situation, the more I wonder if this isn't one of the major reasons that they decided they had to make sure that President Trump never took power. Apparently, Hillary Clinton said, if he gets into office, we're all hanging, you know what I mean? And maybe this right here is exactly it, because they were willing to trade American lives like a commodity. They were willing to put all of this money out into this terror network so that it could be used against our own citizens and so that they could get kickbacks and continue to live these lavish lifestyles. Of course, there are way more reasons than just this, but I think that a major part of it is this piece right here. Obviously, a lot more information is about to come out. That evidence is going to drop, and I want to reiterate, I have heard it myself. It is explosive, and when it does hit the internet, guys, there is going to be no way that they can defend against it. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zach the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today. If you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Make sure you hit that notification bell and always consider liking and sharing this show on your favorite social media platform. If you guys want to support the channel more directly, there are ways to do that in the description below. I appreciate everything you guys have done. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.